Food bloggers, hi, how are you today? Thank you so much for tuning in to the Eat Blog Talk podcast. This is the place for food bloggers to get information and inspiration to accelerate your blog's growth and ultimately help you to achieve your freedom, whether that's financial, personal, or professional. I'm Megan Porta. I have been a food blogger for 13 years, so I understand how isolating food blogging can be. I'm on a mission to motivate, inspire, and most importantly, let each and every food blogger, including you, know that you are heard and supported. If writing and publishing a cookbook and doing it on your own, self-publishing, is something that's been on your radar, you should definitely tune into this episode. June from Practically Homemade joins me to talk about her experience as she has been self-publishing her cookbook for the past year or so. She talks about all the things she wished she'd known from the beginning, things she's learned along the way, things that she wished she did differently, and also talks about some things she did really well that have worked out for her. Overall, she talks more big picture too, like what to expect from this process, how to find the right help for things that maybe aren't your strengths, how to get help from your audience to put your cookbook together, and how to think about promoting your cookbook as well. I think projects like this are going to be increasingly popular this year, just with the volatility of Google traffic and all of that. So this might give you some motivation to start a fun new project. I hope you really enjoy it. And plus, June is just such a lovely person and so fun to listen to and talk to. This is episode number 563, and it is sponsored by RankIQ. Food bloggers, have you experienced traffic loss after the recent Google updates? Are you feeling confused about how to move forward? I get it. I have been a food blogger for nearly 14 years, and I've been through the ringer with industry changes and business changes. You name it, I have been there. When I look back over my tough times, the thing that pulled me out of slumps and traffic loss and disappointment was always people. We need each other right now more than ever. You are in this food blogging game for the long haul. I know you are. And that means you need to find people to collaborate with, to connect with, and to learn from. Eat Blog Talk has two great options for you coming up: the 2025 Eat Blog Talk Mastermind groups and in-person retreats. We are now taking applications for the 2025 Mastermind groups. This year, we're splitting the groups in two. It'll be intermediate and advanced and beginner. We also lower the price to accommodate traffic and revenue dips a lot of us are experiencing. Apply now, as the first 4 people let into the group will receive 20% off the whole year. Go to eatblogtalk.com/mastermind to apply today. And there are still a few spots remaining for the 2024 fall retreat, which is also discounted this year due to revenue loss for so many. Join us in October in Minnesota. It is my favorite time of year here in Minnesota for 3 incredible days filled with laughter, great food, tons of learning and connecting, and honestly, they're just so much fun. You will not regret attending this retreat. Head over to eatblogtalk.com/retreat to apply for that today. I hope to see you in one or both of those spots. I can't wait for the next 12 months and to see all of your businesses explode. And trust me, having those people in your corner is going to help. June Albertson Dick is the recipe developer and photographer for her food blog, Practically Homemade. Here you will find simple recipes for everyday families inspired by years of being a restaurant owner, high school culinary teacher, and mom of 4. Now as an empty nester, June is still looking for shortcut ingredients and kitchen hacks to save time in the kitchen. Her life mission is to share them with you so that you can have time back in your life to enjoy the little things. June, welcome back to the podcast. How is your day going so far?
It's going great. Thank you for having me back, Megan. I'm excited to be back.
I always love talking to you. You have so much to share. And today we're going to talk about self-publishing a cookbook. I know that you've been in this process for a little bit, so we're excited to learn from you and everything that you've been through. Do you have a fun fact, another one to share with us?
Well, last time I talked about my family, but I thought today I would tell you the first time I decorated a cake, like for an event or holiday or whatever, I was 9 years old. We had a family friend who decorated cakes, and she kind of took me under her wing, and I started making cakes when I was 9.
What? Wow, that's so young. So did you make a lot of cakes and desserts when you were a kid?
I did. I kind of stopped when I was in high school and college, but when I came back and got married and had my kids, I did it as a side business and kind of still do for friends and family. But yeah, it was then I think that my bug for all things food kind of started.
Yeah. So do you remember the first cake you made?
Yeah, I remember that it was like a 2-tier round cake, and I used yellow frosting. That's about all I remember, and I can't
Oh,
really even remember the event it was for, but yeah.
aw. Well, that's sweet that you remember it though. And it was a layer
Yeah.
cake. Awesome. I love that. And I also love when parents or mentors or family members encourage kids to get in the kitchen and bake or cook when they're young, right? I think that's so important
I do.
because it creates
Well,
those
yeah,
memories.
especially going on to be like a culinary teacher, a high school culinary
Yeah.
teacher. And my mom always had us like in cooking 4-H and different things like that. So she was big into cooking, and it just kind of rubbed off on a couple of us. One of my sisters is like, yeah, I don't love it,
Yeah.
but that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay. It's not for everyone, but clearly for you, you've had so much success with your blog and now you're publishing a cookbook. Do you want to talk first just a little bit about your blog? Give us a history, like when you started, just give us a little bit of what your blog is about.
Sure. I started my blog in November of 2017 as kind of just a way to have an outlet. My kids, our 2 oldest children, had left the nest, and I was trying to think of something that I could do just to kind of occupy my time. And so at that point, I was also a high school culinary teacher. And so I did that until the summer of 2020. I had replaced my income, and my husband and I decided it was time to just blog full time. And so I've just been doing that since. It's, a blog where there's super simple recipes. People are coming to me for ideas for great food that doesn't take a lot of time, and they can use kind of shortcut ingredients and things like that.
Awesome. And you are also in the eBlog Talk Mastermind. I love
I
having you
am.
there. Thank you for being there. It's
Yes, I
been fun
love it.
to
It's
learn.
great.
Good. Okay, so that gives us a little bit of a background on your blog. So when did you decide to self-publish a cookbook?
Well, writing a cookbook has been on my bucket list. I wrote this big bucket list. Gosh, I can't even remember. It was like 15 years ago. And on there was to start a food blog and also to write a cookbook. And so I've always kind of had it in the back of my mind. And last year in May, I can't remember the exact date, but I just decided I'm doing this. I'm not waiting for some publisher to come and offer me an offer to write a book. I'm just going to do it. If I want to do it, I'm just going to do it. So I purchased Chelsea's course from a Duck Seven.
Yeah.
And she had a great resources for it. But I've also, learned lots of other things kind of along the way. It's been kind of quite the process.
Yeah. So that was, did you say last year or when did you make that decision? Okay.
Yeah, it was in May of last year. I told my husband, he came home from work, and I said, you know what? I'm going to write a cookbook. He's like, okay.
That's funny. I think us food bloggers, we operate much the same way because I remember when I was going to start a podcast, same exact thing. My husband came home from work and I was like, I'm going to start a podcast. And he just looked at me like, oh, okay, sure you are. I mean, he knew I would do it.
Well, and it's still going. And so I think Darb's like, are you really going to publish a cookbook? Like, this has been a while.
Is this actually happening? I know some projects just take a little bit of time, but I don't know. I feel like it's going to be super successful. So tell us kind of about the process. So you decided to do it. You took a course. How did it go from there?
Well, I will say that the first thing I did was kind of come up with my topic, which was good, but I kind of just jumped in with both feet and started making my recipes, which I wish, and I'll talk about that, I guess, in a minute, but I wish I had done a couple of things before that. So I shot there are a few recipes from my blog, but most of the recipes are new, and I shot them in a month because I didn't want my blog to suffer. And so that was kind of intense. So July of last year, I was making 4 or 5 recipes a day. It
Oh
was
my
crazy.
gosh. So how many recipes are in the book total?
There are 75 recipes in the book, 25 are from my blog, and 50 of them are brand new.
Oh my gosh. And you shot all of those in a month, those 50.
I did, yes.
Oh my goodness. And it's
It was
mostly
crazy.
baked goods, right? So what did you do with all those baked goods?
Yeah, it's cookies and, like, cookie bars, and so I was sending them with my husband to work, and lots of times I'll take things. My son is a first-grade teacher, and so I'll take things to him, but school was out for the summer, and so friends, family, neighbors, everybody was getting baked goods,
You had a lot of
daily.
friends in July of last year.
Yeah. Oh, it was crazy.
That's funny. Okay, so how did you decide on the number? So why 75? Is that just kind of a good number for cookbooks?
Well, I knew I wanted it to have a substantial number, but I didn't want it to be so much that I felt like it wasn't attainable. So I can't remember the exact number of recipes that was suggested in the class that I took, but I knew that it was more than 50, to like 135 or something. And so 75 just seemed like, I don't know, a logical number of
Yeah,
recipes that people would be willing to pay for and that I could actually get done in a decent amount of time.
right. Okay, so you knew your topic, you shot them all. If you could go back, how would you do that differently?
Well, a couple things have happened in doing it. And so I think the first thing I would do if I was to write another one is I would kind of think of your end product and how you want it to look and how you want everything to be in it, and then think backwards the steps. Instead, I just kind of didn't know maybe what the steps were exactly, even though I had the course, which was helpful. Different things like how do you want it to look? What's the size of the book you want? Because there's so many things like the bleed size and different things like that I didn't even take into consideration really. Also, one of the things that I've ran into a lot of different things, but one of the problems was that I didn't have a really good format for my recipes. I had to go back and kind of make them. When the editor went through it, there were a lot of things I had to fix. And so I would go and make sure that I have like a template that's pretty much exactly the same for every recipe and how you're setting it up so that it's super consistent. And I didn't do that, and I would definitely do that again.
Because I'm assuming you spent time just going back and fixing little things.
Yes, like I would have, like turn on your oven like 2 steps down instead of at the beginning in another recipe.
Oh,
So
gotcha.
just little things like that have taken me time to go back. I also so the book is all about cake mix cookies and bars, and in the middle of doing the book, the size of the cake mix changed. And
That's
so
right.
it was a little bit crazy. It was 15 1/4 ounces when I started. And in October, the company changed it to 13 1/4.
Oh,
So I had to go back and retest recipes and change things in the cookbook. And it was that I don't think could have been helped, but
yeah.
that was one of the crazy things that happened.
That is crazy. Something you wouldn't think of, right? So,
Right.
did that change any of the recipes?
I was lucky enough that it didn't really change a lot. I mean, there was a couple of them that I was like adding, a little bit more flour or something so that it would hold up a little better. But thankfully, most of them still work just the same.
Yeah, that's so annoying. I bet you were like, what? No.
Yes, I
Yeah.
was. When people are messaging me, because one of the really great things that I did was I reached out to my audience kind of in the beginning and asked for people who might want to recipe test for me, and thinking I'd get like maybe 25 answers back. And over 200 of my readers
Wow.
messaged back and said they wanted to be a recipe tester, which was kind of overwhelming. But at the same time, it was really wonderful. And one of them were really the ones that said, the recipe says this, and this is the only size cake mix I
Oh.
can find. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay.
Oh, wow.
I think I need to go back and look at that. But over 100 of them did go and recipe test for me. And most of them sent photos back and notes. And
Aw.
it's just that was probably the most special part of writing the book for me, just knowing how invested some of my audience was.
And that's the benefit of being a food blogger. You have an audience that you can tap into And I've heard this from other people too, not just you, June, but people love being asked to recipe test and they go above and beyond. That's so cool.
They really do. I mean, I was not expecting, all the photos and I don't know.
Yeah.
It was really neat.
And their feedback, did you find it pretty helpful?
It was helpful. And I really made sure to go back and look at each one of them and kind of take into consideration what they had said to try to make the recipes better.
Yeah.
It was a lot to manage, though. I don't know if I would do 100 people again, but having a good, reaching out to your email list or even on your socials and asking, and then maybe having a little smaller list, I would suggest. But it was great. It was awesome and fun.
Yeah. Another friend of mine did the same thing. She had, she put that out there, like, who wants to recipe test? She got so many back. And then what she did was she hired like a niece or someone in the family who, she paid probably like $15 an hour or something to manage the recipe testers. And she found that really helpful because I can imagine that is a lot.
It really was a lot.
Yeah.
But it's been fun. And so they're like, and I get messages from them. Is it coming?
Oh, sure.
When
They're
can we
excited.
expect to?
They're
Yeah.
invested,
So-
probably.
Yes. And
Yeah.
so getting your audience invested like that was really fun.
Did you get them invested in other ways, like format of the book or cover or anything like that?
I did. I did ask them when I was trying to think about which recipe I wanted to use on the cover. I gave a couple of options on my socials and in my emails. And I had kind of decided which one I really liked, but I thought, if they like something different, but they unanimously liked the same one. So that worked out.
Yeah. Okay, so the tapping into the audience is something that you definitely recommend for people, especially
do,
having
yes.
a food blogger audience already established. What else would you do differently, or do you want to impart to others?
I would just make sure that you're thinking about at the beginning about what you want to include. How many recipes at the beginning do you think you want to do? And then how do you want to set up your chapters? I mean, thinking about all of that ahead of time instead of at the end would make structuring your book and recipe testing and all of those things so much easier. I also suggest taking a few different photos of like maybe a close-up and then a farther away of your final shots, because I found that when I was sizing my book, sometimes the photos didn't exactly work and I had to go back and remake and take photos of a couple of different recipes when I could have done all of that the first time but I usually like the close-up shots. And so that's kind of what I did. And I wish I would have taken a couple of different shots of every recipe.
Yeah, that's a good thing to think through. And then did you do any like process shots or anything like that just to show, I don't know, how things look on a cookie sheet or anything along those lines?
I didn't do much of that. I did do some photos for some tips that I was giving, that I have like a tip section, some photos for that. And I did take process shots because a few of the recipes I will put onto the blog kind of as like a preview when it gets closer. But I think not doing that was how I was able to shoot it in a month. If I was taking process shots and stuff of everything, it would have taken me quite a bit longer.
Right. And that's one of the good things about a cookbook is that you don't really need process shots unless it's something just a little bit different, like maybe the batter looks different than normal or something like that. You mentioned templates earlier. Where did you create this book? Did you do it in Canva? Did you do it somewhere else?
I did it in the Adobe shop, my Adobe shop. It's called InDesign.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually hired someone to help me with that part. I have a graphic designer who kind of is setting it up because I've never used the program. And that's been super helpful, having someone who we've meet on a Google Meet about once a month and kind of go through. And if there's something I'm not really loving, then she changes it. But that's been super helpful. I wish I had learned more about that program, and maybe I will, as it gets closer.
Yeah.
But having someone who knows it and has used it a lot has been super helpful because we've resized it once and all the different things that has had to be changed.
Hello, food bloggers. Let's take a quick break to chat about an easy new way to earn some extra cash. If Feel like everyone wants some extra revenue right now, right? The Rank IQ affiliate program is the top paying SEO affiliate program in existence. You will receive $100 for every person you refer to Rank IQ. With monthly achievement bonuses that are easy to reach, you can get up to $225 per referral. Here are the month's bonuses. If you get 5 referrals, you get a $500 bonus. 10 referrals equals an additional $500 bonus. And 20 referrals brings you an additional $1,500 bonus. Wow. Simply sign up to be an affiliate at rankiq.com and share your link in your email newsletter and on social media and watch the dollars roll in. Head to rankiq.com today to get started. Now back to the episode. So talking about size, how did you know what size to create the book? Because I know like books are all different kinds of sizes. So how did you land on one?
I did kind of the traditional, it's like 8.25 by 11 because I like that size of book when I'm looking at cookbooks, and I wanted to have a nice full-size photo of each of the recipes. So that's how I chose it. But I would go into wherever you're going to print it, like if you're going to do the print on demand with Amazon through KDP, or whether you're going to order the books and distribute them yourself, and see what options they have before you just think, oh, well, I'm going to do, an 8.5 by 9 or something, and have that not really be an option.
Yeah. No, I like what you said about it's a size that you enjoy as a user of of cookbooks. So thinking through that, but then also like, oh, how are you actually having these printed? Make sure it translates, because you don't want to go back and have to format, oh my gosh, every single page, right? And like move stuff around and ugh.
Well, and also knowing, like I said before, like how your bleed, how much lead into each page you need, it's different for every place. So kind of having in mind where you want to distribute them or how you're going to distribute them in the beginning will help you in finding the size and in your formatting and all of those things. And I'm still kind of mulling over exactly how I'm going to do it. So I would have done that way sooner.
So where do you distribute? I know there are a handful of options, but what are you thinking for yours?
I'm actually thinking of just ordering them and distributing them myself. I have one of my friend's daughters helps me and is super good help, and I think it would be something that she could do, and also selling it through Amazon, but I'm going to actually be the one sending them. I'm a little nervous because I don't really want to become a shipping company.
Mm-hmm.
But I also feel like there's a couple touches that I want to make that I can't do if I do it through KDP or the print on demand or Lulu or any of those places. And so that's what I'm leaning toward right now.
Yeah. I mean, you get more money, right? If you do the shipping and all of that yourself.
You do.
Yeah. Is it significant? Do you know the difference?
It is pretty significant. It is significant. I'm having them printed through Print Ninja. So, I mean, it is an overseas company. Then you have to have them shipped on a boat over.
Oh.
And so it takes a while for that part of it. And so I think that there's like a 4 to 6 week lead time before you actually get the crates of books. So I am trying to take that into consideration. But the amount that you make is quite significantly more.
Right. Yeah. If you do it traditionally through just Amazon and let them do all the shipping, oh my gosh, you just do not make much at all.
No.
So
it's so much work. And so I'm thinking, I really want to, try to at least make the money that I've put into it back.
Right. Like all this time, all the effort, you want to make the absolute most of it that you can. Totally understand that. Is there anything else, if you could go back to that day when you said, guess what, husband, I'm writing a book, what would you do differently?
I don't know. Some suggestions that I definitely would have is, and I think I wish I would have thought about it a little bit more, was that how am I going to continue to nurture my blog in the process? I kind of just was burning the candle at both ends that month that I shot all of everything, but I would plan ahead a little bit better. Like if I know I'm going to shoot a book in July, then in May and June, I would be working ahead so that I had content still going out, but I
Yeah.
wasn't having to try to do it in the midst of shooting a cookbook.
Right.
So really thinking about maybe, do you need to hire someone to help you with that part? I just don't suggest that you're neglecting your blog for the cookbook.
Yeah. That does require some foresight, though, and planning and scheduling and all of that.
Yes.
So maybe some like lead up time to the project so you can get things handled a little bit.
Yeah, I wish I had done that because
Yeah.
I really, by the end of July, I was pretty kind of in
I
a
bet.
burnout mode. And if I had planned ahead, I think it wouldn't have been as bad.
Yeah, because you did keep up with your blog during that time too.
I did. Yeah, I was posting 2 or 3 recipes a week. I mean,
Oh my
some of those were
gosh.
republishes, but yeah, by the end of July, I felt like I was had been like, I don't know, in a whirlwind and was just trying to get my feet on the ground.
Yeah, and it's summer too, so you don't necessarily want to be feeling like that in summer. So I bet you were just like, "Oh my gosh, what did I just do?"
Yes, it's exactly how I was feeling, and I think my husband was feeling that
Oh, I
too
bet.
because he would come home and I think I mean, it was like all I did for a month. I'm glad
Mhm.
in hindsight that I did do that because I think if I had waited and kind of done a little bit at a time, it never really would have gotten done.
Right.
But I would definitely plan ahead better and maybe plan in some days that I wasn't, take a couple of days off during that month, at least a couple, and not work on the cookbook.
Absolutely. Yeah, clear your head a little bit. If you could go back, would you change the time of year you did the cookbook?
Well, where I live in the summers when I have the best light, and so I could have done it probably in the fall and been okay, but because I shoot with natural light, I had to kind of be strategic in how I wanted to be able to shoot every single day. And so summer really was the best time for that. It wasn't great for getting outside and enjoying the weather and all those things, but for,
Sure.
getting the photos done and
Yeah.
stuff, it really worked best.
Yeah, that makes sense. Winter's hard here too for shooting if you're doing natural light. You have to be very strategic with the timing and I don't know, if you have a cloudy
Yes.
winter day, then everything's shot. So, yeah, you have to think
And
through
so
that.
I knew I could have, 30 days of, pretty good
Absolutely.
sunshine. I mean, there was a few days in there, but most of the time I could get a shot somewhere in the house.
Yeah.
There was better light.
Yeah, that's smart. So, do you feel like involving your audience is going to help you once the book is published and selling it and, doing all the promotions and all of that?
I really do think so. I have a cookbook wait list on my email so that even people who didn't do the recipe testing for me can still
Oh,
be on
yeah.
that. And so I have a list of people that when the book is ready or when I start my pre-sales, which will be the next week or two, they'll be the first ones to get notice. And so that's been really helpful. I just put it kind of as on my signature of my emails. And I think today I was thinking I might add it to the homepage of my blog
Oh,
because I
yeah.
haven't done that. And I have a spot where I have kind of an opt-in. And I think I'm going to do that for a month and kind of see how that goes.
Are you doing any sort of opt-in leading to your book? So I don't know, a freebie with a few recipes or anything like that?
I haven't. I am going to do some promotions so the people who helped me with recipe testing are going to get a couple extra recipes that aren't in the book and won't be on the blog. And then people who buy it pre-sale will get a couple of advanced recipes ahead of time so while they're waiting. So I'm doing a few things like that and trying to think about how I can serve my audience without having to be out like a ton of extra money. So just giving them things that I can do
Yeah.
that are related to the book.
I love the bonus recipes idea. I think that's good, especially when people are invested and giving you their input. They're probably like, ooh, extra bonus recipes
Yeah.
that nobody else is getting. That sounds pretty cool.
Yes.
Are there any parts of the project overall that you're just so happy to hand off? I know you said that InDesign wasn't really your thing, so maybe the layout. What else have you been able to relinquish and, I don't know, free up time for yourself?
Well, I did have, and then I also had an editor come in. I found her, I think it was through the program that I had been going through. And she did an edit for me. Now, not having published a book before, I was giving her the book like almost in a finished state, where she says usually
Oh.
it's like just a rough draft of a book. And then she goes in and does like the styling of it a little bit, gives you ideas for that. Well, I had already kind of done all of that. I didn't know
Oh, yeah.
that that's when I was supposed to do the book. But anyway, she was super nice, and she had it for about 3 weeks and made some, helped me with the consistency and some different wording and how to set it up a little bit differently, which was nice.
Yeah. So you did a lot of her job for her. She's probably like, thank you.
Yes. Well, when she got it, she said, "I'm not going to charge you as much as I was before." And I didn't think it was a, terrible price to begin with, but you really have done most of the work. I usually get it,
Oh,
like
yeah.
before it even gets to this stage. So that would be nice, I think, for me to, if I decide to do another book, to have that, know that in my head, that once I have that rough draft, send it off. And then
Yeah.
maybe it would save I feel bad for my graphic designer sometimes, because I'm like, okay, we need to reformat it once. That was it. And then the size of the cake mix,
Right.
we need to change every single recipe. So sometimes I think she's probably like, oh my gosh, she does not know what she's doing.
Oh, that is not true. Clearly you do. So for other people, it might be other things, right? To outsource, like maybe someone isn't
Yes.
super into photography, or what are some other aspects of it that could be passed off?
Well, definitely the photography and the setup, even coming up with like recipe ideas
Mm,
or helping you pull which ones you want to from your blog. Anything within the process that you don't exactly love. I, shooting the recipes and making the recipes is my favorite part, whether it's a cookbook or blogging. And so I knew that was something I wanted to keep. But even, helping you write your templates for the recipes, like you kind of give an idea of what you want and then have people help you with that, would be, it would save you a ton of time for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah. So the parts that just don't light you up, that you don't get excited
Yes.
about, maybe consider outsourcing those. And then I think
Yeah, just
things,
like with
yeah,
your blog.
yeah, exactly. Thinking of it like your blogging business, because things are going to go so much more smoothly when you're actually doing the things that you want to be doing.
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure.
And then just like overall, is there anything we missed as far as like kind of what to expect in this process?
It's going to take probably longer than you think. I really thought that I could have it done before Christmas of last year,
Mm,
and quickly found out that wasn't. I was either going to be pushing it through and not having it be how I wanted, or I needed to, take the extra time. It was not going to be done in that 6-month time. And so it's going to take a little bit more time, and be okay with that. The other big thing I would tell people is just make sure that you're choosing something that you really love, because you're doing this for a year I've been working on this thing. And so I really love cookies and, using a cake mix for convenience and all those things. And so it's easy for me to talk about, and I don't get tired of really going and making the recipes or working on them. If it was something that I didn't love as much, it would be harder. And so pick something
yeah,
that you
that's good
really
advice.
like. And yeah,
And then also marry that with something that you know is going to benefit your people, right? Your audience.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did do research and went to my blog and kind of, the top 25 recipes, what were they? Well, a lot of them were cake mix cookies or even bundt cakes or things, which might be an idea for another book, but most of them were cake mix cookies. And so I knew people were coming to my blog for those already. And so I went to Amazon to see, like, is this something
Ah.
that maybe would be good for, a cookbook? And there are cake mix cookie cookbooks, but they're, older. There's not really a lot of new ones, and the cookies are really simple. The cookies in my book and the bars in my book are like gourmet cookies and things with a cake mix. I don't know. They have they remind me of maybe like a crumble cookie or something like
Oh,
that. They just
yeah.
have extra details and are more gourmet. And there wasn't anything like that on Amazon, so I knew there was probably a
Ah.
place for it. And so that's one of the things in the program that I took, that she kind of tells you how to go in and research what you have a topic idea. Is it really something that people might want to buy? So
Yeah.
I definitely suggest doing that.
Something that sets you apart from your competition and that also aligns with something that you're really passionate about making.
Yes.
Otherwise, you're going to get sick of it really fast if it's something that doesn't light you up.
Yep. It's something you're going to work on every day for a long time. And so you need to love it.
Absolutely. Anything else we need to know, June, that you can think of? Things you wish you would have done differently or things that you did really well?
I think I did a really great job at coming up with my recipes. And my chapters were easy because I was using cake mixes. So they're just divided by like the cake mix kind, like there's a chocolate cake mix chapter and a vanilla. So whatever people have on hand at home, they, can just go to that chapter. But I definitely just would think about it as an end product before I started doing anything and how I want it to look and feel and the size of it and how I'm going to market it and all these things before I actually started, so that you have that end goal in mind and the steps you need to take to get there, instead of just kind of doing what you think you need to do and kind of being on that hamster wheel without any real, not really knowing if that's what you need or what's going to work.
Great advice. And being ready for those unexpected turns of events, right? Like the changing of size of the cake mix box. That's something that you never could have anticipated, and just rolling with it and making it work.
Yeah. Have yourself a little cry if you need to, and then just get going,
Gosh, I think that's true with any big project. Like, just assume that you're going to have some tears once in a while and just let yourself do that and then move on, right? Got to keep moving. Thank you. This was so helpful. I feel inspired to write a book, and I do not need a book in my life.
But you've wrote one, haven't you?
Yes, I have. And and it wasn't a great experience because it wasn't under my control. It was under the publisher's control, like you were talking about earlier. So I've always been intrigued by this idea of doing it myself, so I can just I'm in charge of the timeline and I'm in charge of everything, as opposed to someone else telling me, you have to have this done in 4 months and it needs to be this many and it needs, just having that control over it yourself, I think, is really intriguing.
Yes, I do have a friend who's doing it through a publisher, and it's been an okay experience, but she says the fact that you can choose exactly what you want to be in the book and how you want it to look is really something that she wishes she had.
Right. There's something to be said for that, for sure. So maybe in the future, I don't know. We'll see. Not right now, though. But thank you for all of this. We really appreciate all the value you shared and for being back on the podcast. June, do you have a favorite quote or words of inspiration to leave us with today?
Well, I think just a words of inspiration, if you have like a bucket list or an item on, a list of things that you've been wanting to do for a long time, just go for it. And even if it takes a little bit longer than you want or things come up, I'm really proud of myself for just stepping outside of my comfort zone and doing this. I'm so excited to have the final product in my hands.
Yes, so excited for you. I cannot wait to get a copy in my hands as well. We'll put together a show notes page for you, and then definitely put your book in there when it's ready. So your show notes can be found at eatblogtalk.com/practically homemade by June. Tell everyone where they can find you, June.
Well, they can find me at my blog, practicallyhomemade.com. I am on Instagram and mostly just Instagram these days, and it's Practically Homemade by June. And on both of those places, I do have some other ebooks and things like that you could purchase or get on my email list.
Awesome. Well, I hope you get tons of cookbook sales, June. I know you're going
Me
to.
too.
You put so much love and effort into this. So everyone go check that out. And thank you again, June, for being here. And thanks for listening, food bloggers. I will see you in the next episode. If you enjoyed this topic, you'll also love the episode I recommend in the show notes. Click on the episode description to find the link. Thank you, and I will see you next time.